Hi,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
Good. Good.
You get to see beautiful Palm Springs.
Yeah. So you're sitting in Palm Springs in your new rental property that you just purchased down there?
Yeah, a good friend of mine and I have purchased a home in the middle of Palm Springs in a really good location, and we've been down here kind of fixing it up and getting it ready for a customer, actually, that needs it because they're moving down here. So, yeah,
Got it.
it's been really hot.
I know
Um,
it's hot down there right now.
there's
I
a
think
lot
it
of,
wasn't it like 100 or something last week?
it was,
Yeah.
and so I was inside. AC on.
Yeah. That's crazy. Well,
It
cool.
is a
That's
little crazy.
yeah, that's a nice new venture. And I kind of did the same thing this year with Phoenix, just kind of branching out into different markets, which was kind of an interesting experience. And I'm sure you kind of learned a lot about California real estate and their contracts and all that sort of thing too.
Yeah, the California contracts. I was helping friends in Del Mar last weekend or the weekend before, and like looking in La Mesa and just really understanding the different intricacies of that. The contract itself is completely different
Yeah.
from Washington State. It is, in my opinion, definitely geared more towards a seller.
Hmm.
That's general opinion, but it feels like at least in Washington, with the MLS contracts, most of the time the outline's pretty transparent, and it feels like there are less transparencies in other states. It seems.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we just get used to our process and is the norms and stuff like that. But then, like, I mean, I felt like Phoenix was a lot of disclosures, but they run their contingencies a lot differently and just overall feels a lot different than
Like
what we do.
you think you're waiving something, they still make you do the contingency.
Yeah.
It's really kind of interesting. Whereas you're trying to be competitive and you're trying to say, okay, I'd like to beat out whatever other offers, but Washington or California doesn't even have an escalation clause.
Hmm.
So it's as if though you could write that in on an addenda and do that, but then it's like, but who the sellers?
No.
I don't know what
Yeah.
that. What's this escalation? Why didn't you just offer that to begin with? So
Yeah, and then the brokers also get their feathers ruffled too. So like in Phoenix, the market, it's so funny to see how competitive is down there in comparison to like, I mean, we've been doing the competitive market, thing for a while now, right? We have it down where it was in, 2006, 7, whatever, 5, 6, 7, and then our next little burst that we had in 15, 16, 17. And then now we're back at it again. Whereas I feel like Phoenix is, and in that general area, this is like the first like really big like competitive market they've been in. And so like they're changing their, not really, but just in terms of the how creative they are getting seems to be pretty normal for us, but it feels pretty creative for them.
yeah, and I'm finding that creative for them, I'm learning new kind of tactics in the sense of, and I don't want to say tactics or like, but just
I
ways
mean, they
of,
are,
depending on like if you're the listing agent or if you're the, selling broker, the selling representative. It's like, how do you protect, the listing itself? You don't want somebody coming in about that liability, right? So I mean, it's really
yep,
getting creative without overextending and getting yourself, putting your buyer or seller at risk of some sort of you back out and the listing looks
yeah,
bad or whatever. So,
liability. Yeah,
but trying to, I'm not an attorney, but I'm just, trying to say, uh, uh, keep keep the liability to a minimum.
yeah,
So,
for sure. Good. Well, thank you for coming on today. It's probably been long overdue. Just kind of checking in, and we've been working together. For how many years now? For
is it?
15?
Can I say
Yeah.
work wife? Okay.
Yeah. You're my work husband. Yes.
All right. So I've been saying that forever. I feel like even in 2010, when I came on to Pointe3 Real
Yep.
Estate, out to me, and I think I'd hit a ceiling. I was, hate like the market crash, 08, 09. and helping with short sales, because at the time I was selling condominiums, and I was working with a developer, and I was working with Bank of America, and I was helping with short sales and foreclosures and modifications of loans with buyers and reselling condos, all that type of stuff. And then, you know, I sort of had a phase out. You just get burned out of being this cheerleader for everybody, you know, and just trying to help, because that's really the relationship for me, for you, that's our business, and that's, you know, try to protect. And so, but even this pandemic has led to like almost kind of a revisionist of the 2010, where I'm like, oh my God, the energy that you expend is like, I really do have a finite amount. And so I need, you think, well, and I'm also 42, like, I'm like, you know, but I need these recharges. So I'm picking and choosing the team, you know, growing the team, working with Pointe3 Real Estate, and just like loving the environment that you've created, that we've all created, the whole, you know, company. Really such a much better experience than, like, you know, the traditional Windermere or the whatever else, the other type of thing.
Well,
so.
There was a time there in 2010 where we were just like busting doing leasing. I mean, leasing was our biggest thing in 2010, right? When the sales market kind of crashed, and we were like, just, yeah, we're like the lease king and queen. So, and that obviously has turned into something else this day, where we both still do, you know, a fair amount of rentals, but sales is kind of, you know, the focus that we've all kind of taken on. And you do, I think you geographically though are a lot, you're more everywhere. I kind of definitely have centralized myself just based on my roles and stuff like that. But you definitely, I mean, you had a home sale over in Hood Canal, right? Did you have one on the islands too?
Yeah. Cordis up in Bow, Washington, Union, Seabeck. Like, I kind of like a challenge, but I like to fully understand different types of, you know, roles and perspectives, and what is a land purchase, and what does that mean, and what are soft costs versus hard costs, and what are, you know, is it waterfront and beachfront, and like, what does that mean, and, you know, just go well, and, you know, how far do you have to go, like, just all different types, from condos to single families. And so for me, I just that sponge, and I get bored. So I just am like, when somebody's like, oh, do you know anything about this? And I'm like, well, if I'm not the expert, I will absolutely, you know,
find someone.
Find somebody. But like, in general, I really try to be. There was a time, I think I had a couple listings in Bainbridge Island, condo listings, and there is that whole, you know, you get that, oh, you're not from Bainbridge, sort of like, they won't show sort of thing, you know, but that, I don't know if that's really doing justice to your buyer. So anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
My area is all over. I do prefer King County, but but I do find myself in Kitsap and Pierce and Snohoe and all others. So yeah.
Nice. And then your team right now, I know you have Alex that has been kind of, your backbone here for this last year.
Yeah, up a year ago in March, and she has been incredible. Like, the new construction, the listing, like, just all that has been just such a helpful asset. And we've got a couple other team members that have just are onboarding right now, just with social media, and just kind of the expansion of just our overall presence of, you know, it's Raffetto Real Estate, but Ryan Raffetto it's me. So new site roll, that type of stuff. So yeah, it's been great. Well, I was just gonna say, like, last year felt like a blur, right? I mean,
yeah, it totally was. I feel like you were and I know I mentioned this in our last little our virtual gala that we did, but you definitely were the Lone Ranger that was out there. Like, I mean, I feel like you were the one on the grounds when everyone was kind of like inside, and yet you just kept still like plowing through things. But yeah, it was definitely a blur. And it's so weird to, like, I'll have a conversation, I'll be like, oh yeah, last year. I'm like, wait, no, that was actually 2 years ago.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to forget 2020.
2020, yeah, it's like gone.
Yeah, the tire kickers, nobody was out there kicking tires. It's like, this is a serious thing. You know, if I'm looking, then it's literally an appointment. But it was also the only time that they might have had to be with other people. And so then it was oh, let's talk, let's talk more. And
Mm-hmm.
you're like, other things, but so it's, yeah.
Sorry, say it again and cut out.
Oh, I just said welcome to the new year. I'm really
Yeah,
excited.
2021, which is almost halfway over. Is that crazy?
It is, yeah. May
Yeah.
is typically one of our busiest, for real estate. May is a
Yep.
very busy up through like Memorial. So,
Mm-hmm.
so
Are you bringing on quite a few more listings? Or are you working with a lot of buyers right now?
the majority are more listings at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So the buyers that I do have, it's been strategic for longer term kind of results. So
Yep.
they have property, but it's like a specific place that they're looking for, more of like a forever type. So those are most of the buyers that I have right now, or they're investors and or first time some, but
Mm-hmm.
are listings. And it's really existing property that are condos that were secondary that they've had for 10 years that I might have sold in '06, '08. And so now the market has come to a point, but rates are so low that people are just kind of, oh my gosh, the Fed's going to raise this or do that or whatever. And so it's like, it is more affordable for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
even PMI, and put less down in some
Yep.
instances. Those traditional norms aren't out the window, but there are so many different tools in your belt that
Yep.
like find, and but having the right kind of leader, hand holding is
Yep.
key.
Yeah. I mean, this market's kind of like that, right? And I know today we're going to dive into a couple, just like things that you do, with competitive offers, like how do you get ahead? How do you win a deal? I know you just had a really frustrating one yesterday, which we may or may not talk about, but it is frustrating, and it is right now for a lot of buyers and agents. You work really hard with the buyer. You try and everything you can to coach them, but then also, make an impression with the listing agent when you're going up against, 30 other people. And it's hard not to feel that rejection, I guess, as the buyer, but then as the agent, you start to feel that too, because you start feeling bad for your client, and you're also working overtime, trying to make these deals work. And, I've talked to a few other agents who are like, yeah, I'm the busiest I've ever been. I'm just not making money. Or it's just not, or we're just not like selling anything, right? And that just
But
is because, go ahead.
but yeah, there's a lot of that goes into it. I mean,
Yeah.
the free type, it's not free. I mean, that's why this is all about the relationship. And so it's,
Oh, totally.
then okay, we that's like a fast track to learning, what the mechanisms are and what your tolerances are, right? So, okay, what are we going to learn from that? And so that's kind of then being that
Yep.
cheerleader of, all right, well, we lost by this amount, and we wanted an inspection, or we wanted, to write this type of letter or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, it really, yeah, you're working overtime to educate quickly, because like the listings are on for 4 or 5 days, maybe
Yep.
early accept, and sometimes that's the strategy too. So yeah, it's definitely a lot
Yep.
expense.
I like that you said what you said. You're spending a lot of energy educating quickly, because again, could only take, maybe 4 or 5 rejections, and then, buyers take a step back and think, okay, well, maybe this isn't the right time for me to buy, or
Yeah,
maybe,
broker, or maybe there's this or that.
yes.
Totally
So,
kidding.
yeah, you do have to be on top of it. So I guess starting just kind of with your bullet points of the things that, you're doing or coaching, what is your strategy overall when you're working with your buyers right now?
At the moment, it's really, if it's a property of interest, I really want to get my buyer in like right away, and more than once. I mean, you've got to see it, in the day, at night. You've got to like do research around the neighbors. You've got to like, yeah, sure, the inspection and all the like mechanics of the house itself is really important. But every time you go into a place, you see something different. And so if they're going to make that commitment, and then, maybe escalate, or maybe, remove contingencies, and or it's all cash or whatever it is, I think that they need to see it at least 2 times, not 3. I mean, as many as possible, and in different lights and different settings, so that they feel really good about what it is that they might consider, removing and or conceding, waiving, or satisfying. So, but secondarily, it's really my job to have a good relationship with whatever the listing broker is, or vice versa, and really not be annoying, but yet like memorable. So
Yeah.
constantly always, if I'm in an email or a text, it's like, these are my buyers' names, this is me, and this is what we're looking for, and this is, and it's this constant, like, these little touch points of reminders of like who this is and who that is, so that when it does come in, if they're not looking at like love letters or whatever letter or photo or whatnot, that at least there's like name recognition, so
Yep.
I think
Yep.
there's a lot that you do a lot of that prior to even writing an offer. They're like, oh, I don't want to write on that, but you've done, that type of effort.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, it's connecting with the list, being communicative, representing, being professional. We have in our industry so many agents that are not that. And I think it's just making sure that if that you're working with a good agent, that you're mirroring that same style.
Yeah. I think that's where the transactional broker, or like you're getting a discount and or fee, I mean, you really what you're missing out on, because you aren't being coached or led through a path that somebody has been through before hundreds and hundreds of times. So it's like, but at the end of the day, you're not the decision maker. You're always there just to educate and just to empower, and whichever side is, listing or buying. So I think lately it's been more of a strategy of, because most listings have review periods, and so about offering early and why. And sometimes there's no harm in that, but sometimes there could be. So it's then, I think, then where to be aggressive and or use that as leverage in the future if you decide to offer early or not.
Yep. When you're deciding that, what is like, how are you coaching? Is it because is the strategy throwing out an offer before because it's going to be tight in contingencies and like a really, really super strong offer that would make, the seller obviously think twice about the review period? But I mean, that's the angle you have to go in at it.
Yeah. I mean, getting a good deal, like if you're talking to a developer, and a lot of the sales even last year and early this year were off market sales. Mm-hmm. And these were things where I was researching permits, researching developments, and then reaching out to developers and just starting a conversation. And then, sometimes it just works, right? Like it's off market and you're done. You didn't have to compete, but don't think of it as the intro to a deal. Like it's intro to the right price, perhaps, and to, like get off market, right? So there's quite a few like variables, at least, on that side. But as far as like offering early, I think it depends on the listing agent. If they're pretty green, sometimes it's like certain things you can look at, metrics and certain types of scenarios where, the seller might be more precise. If it's an estate sale and it's just about the money, totally different thing, and it's an attorney and whatever else. So it's really just, I think there's quite a few variables involved, but it's really more about chance, but making sure that you have the opportunity again, so that if you offered and they say, no, we're going to wait, that you're not again, but that you've got, now you've got more money somehow appeared, in your escalation, that makes you then, the seller might be offended that you didn't offer that in the first place.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I would probably say, and maybe correct me or tell me what you're experiencing, the amount of people that are sellers that are accepting early offers would be what, like 15 to 20%, you think?
Yeah, I would say like 50%.
Yeah. But sometimes it's worth a try, and you just have to make sure that what you're coming forth with is like super strong. And
yeah, I was just saying that with condominiums, because like the Seattle Times had a pretty lame article about just the that it's the right time to be offering that, you know, sellers are really desperate and that whole thing, and there's all this inventory that's coming. But quite frankly,
Well,
it's like
they're late.
they're late. Yeah, it's as if like, well, most people really miss urban villages, and they miss going to the museum, and miss going to see a hockey game, and miss going to the concert. And so as we, you know,
Yep.
gear towards different phases, the urban village, and even if you're at 30%, you know, commercial capacity, and you're in the office, you know, 2 times a week or whatever, you still want those like urban amenities. So I don't.
Well, I think one thing that on to touch on that condo specific for downtown, is that, you know, last year there were so many new hires and people that were supposed to move last year, that postponed, and that demographic of people, let's say it's Amazon based, or, you know, the new hire that's out of college, that's getting their first job, you know, maybe they're a software engineer, maybe, you know, at the various companies that we work with, but they don't want to go live on the east side. They want to live in an urban environment as close to campus and close to work as possible. So we have that group that is kind of compounded from last year, but then, you know, Amazon didn't really stop hiring whatsoever. So we then now have this new group of people coming in. So it's just kind of like this compound effect for people wanting to live in the downtown core, or in these urban environments. And so that Seattle Times article, again, behind in that, you know, downtown, even from the beginning of the year, the marketplace has completely changed. And, you know, on the rental side and the sales side. So, yeah, I think that we're due for, you know, the condo market to kick back up. We did take a hit in the values on both rental and sales last year. But if you're priced right, you're definitely selling in a week here. I'm not seeing multiple offers or really offer review periods yet, but we might just be on that little fine line that we could start seeing that maybe this summer, if we start getting some momentum with more buyer activity. And I'm sure you could concur that too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there was a review period. You know, we had just seen a spike in like gridiron sales. You know, kind of
Yep.
a couple of years ago, by, you know, Daniel's group, and they're doing the Emerald and some other one up on First Hill. But it was as if that because of some of the inventory on pending and sold, that it was the right time to like actually have a review period, and it just seemed to work out. So it was like one of those things where an early, but there was urgency and create, you know, and these types of things where I think that that's where we'll be able to, you know, these neighborhoods are totally established and they're awesome. It's like, and they're all different. And so like Belltown is really going to be super cool. There's no 99, you're next to the parks, you know, Expedia's down the street. So it's like, you know, you can walk everywhere, but it's quiet. Like at night, it's like, you know, super nice, and you just run along the. So I think that yes, the older buildings are also like in 2020, most of them had done kind of some major updates, common areas, you know, tucking and capping, and like really solidifying themselves as a better buy, a more attractive buy, and a more foundation. So I live in Madrona. I'm like, I miss downtown like every day, just because walkability and, you know, just going to the market and, I don't know, going out to eat, I think mostly. But yeah.
Well, yeah, and I also think last year was kind of like everyone who loves that vibrancy of living downtown and the kind of the conveniency. I mean, it's inconvenient conveniency sometimes, but you know, the people who love it are dedicated to living downtown. Like, where else would I live? And especially with everything that was going on last year, it's like, oh, isn't Seattle horrible? Well, yeah, but I mean, there was a period of time where it was kind of like, okay, come on. But now we're kind of rounding a corner, and even at that, you know, you get comments of like, oh, well, isn't everyone leaving Seattle? And, you know, we have our fair share of problems because it's a city, and, you know, we have a lot of different people that are living here, and you know, some with addresses and some without. But, you know, I think that the downtown core is something that won't go away in terms of people wanting to live downtown.
No, and I'm seeing the same on the east side. I mean, Bellevue, Kirkland, I mean, those cores are actually, I mean, downtown is going to be the most amazing office park I've ever seen. Like, it's really actually pretty cool. And downtown park and Maidenbower Beach Park. And so I've asked my partner many times if we could move to the east side, and he
Yeah.
did say that he would leave me. So I can't.
That's funny. Maybe you could get just like a work week. Like that's where you have a little pad for the work week.
I mean,
And Madrona's like your weekend stay.
yeah, there are times. I mean, there's some really nice buildings. Bellevue Tower is like something to watch.
188. Yeah.
Really nice, and
Yeah.
it's like a culture, downtown, and it's pretty, and it's kind of separated in the sense that the view corridors are going to remain. So there's part of me that likes the going over there, and I like that it feels like it's a different community and world, and anything along that East Link light rail that keeps just headed to Redmond and is building quickly is becoming more of like that connection to the city. So I'm seeing those, even so Licton Springs, like Northgate is just totally going to blow up and kind of has been. Will move up, and that light station opens in September. So, and the NHL practice rink. But I just think, as a whole, the downtown, we're going to start to see a more competitive environment. We're going to start to see the new construction, like Spire, sure, offering 2 years homeowner dues, free or whatever. They're going to be incentives, but at the end of the day, not what is incentivizing the buyer, because they might be able to get something that's more of a value and or work-life kind of balance than shiny and new. They can personalize it themselves, because some of these buildings that built in 2000 to 2010 have done some incredible updates.
Yeah, and
Newmark
you can
Tower.
talk about square footages too, right? So like in the buildings built in that time period or even a little bit prior, you're talking like your 2 bedrooms or 1,200, 1,300 square feet, maybe even 16. But when you get to the newer construction, that's kind of unheard of. They're a lot smaller footprint. They are new and they have all the nice amenities, and a lot of the projects have those phenomenal views. If you're into those views, it's nice to have some nice view projects or going up. Emerald, I think Spiral has beautiful views too. But yeah, I think if someone's looking for square footage and space, you're looking at a resale condo.
I think so. Unless, I mean, 2 bedrooms really didn't get hit that hard last year, I don't think. I think those were the ones, and it was
Yeah,
really like
no. Yep. Studios and ones.
work from home space. If we're a couple, we need this. And then that was where this like pocket of exodus, and then you really have to get into the variables, specific project, each community, neighborhood, and that were did more, but at the end of the day are becoming more popular now because of, if you're a first time home buyer, it is less expensive to purchase a 1 bedroom, at the Ellington or something like that, with 5% and, a partial view of the water in a great neighborhood.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, I think again, to sum this all up, the condo market will get there to where will be a little bit more competitive. But I had 2 offers submitted on that Seattle Heights unit that I brought back on, within 24 hours of each other, and that was one that came back on from already pending. And so we're at that point. We might see some offer reviews this summer, I think, downtown.
Yeah, and especially closer like 2.1, 2.2. I mean, it was bigger. So in general, I think that those buyers are that in city, they have the house somewhere else.
Yep.
In Arizona, there's a lot of the snowbird where I've got in contract now just 3 or 4 homes where they bought a condo downtown Bellevue or downtown Seattle, and so they know that they're going to retire in 5 to 8 years, and so that we're seeing that trend of like, well, I don't need this house and I don't need the school district, and I just want this urban pad. That's where I think the competitive market, because they have a little bit more footing, is going to be. Yeah.
Yep. Good. Is there anything else you want to touch on as far as like strategy for the single family, the true competitive offer, strategy?
Giveaway.
I think.
I mean, I would be your best bet.
Wait, say that one more time because I think you might have cut out.
I just said, I just said I don't want to give away all my strategy because
Yes, I know.
get the right broker to represent you. And if you need to get a hold of me, RyanRaffetto.com or,
All right. But yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, we all have our little tips and strategies, but I think it's more so from the buyer's perspective, what they can, I guess, expect. Obviously, it's waiving your contingencies, doing all your due diligence up front, making sure financing, if you are doing financing, is completely all up to date and in line, and you've been scrubbed down and washed around and thrown out the door and completely, yeah.
like, especially find certain counties have lower thresholds of median home price. So if you are in a county, you can count off and think, okay, well, if we're spending 20% down on this property in King County, then we've got for this other one in Kitsap or somewhere else. And so I guess I would just say, it's a good reminder to like understand the county that you're in. But yeah, financing all day, like that is the foundation to be competitive. So you feel good about going into something knowing that that is not going to be a hiccup whatsoever, or that you have the money or are willing to pay any sort of difference of a variable because you've waived, your appraisal. So that sort of thing. But financing and having the right lending partner. So lending partner, broker, team, is really, I think, the most important thing.
Yep, I 100% agree. Yeah, and like I said before, and we see it, there are a lot of agents out there that, and it really doesn't matter what the experience level, you don't have to be in real estate really for 20 years. I mean, but you have to have someone who's really savvy and, knows the right moves and communicates in the way that they need to be communicating and kind of tells you as the buyer, all options, and just being upfront too. I think a lot of agents sometimes walk around their clients versus being kind of direct and this is the market. This is what we're in, and it's not a pleasant market to be out in the out looking for a new home. It's very fierce and competitive. So,
but it's
not
okay.
the faint part.
It's okay to have an opinion, though. So, I mean, you're not making the decision for people, but I think the gravitation with a customer and a broker would be that you either understand the school district and or the type of home, and or are listening to what they really want in a perfect world. And so I think then that is the more important thing of, you can have an opinion based on what you're hearing from your customer. And you're not saying you should offer up to X or whatever. You're just really trying to understand.
Well, you understand what, and understanding what they are comfortable with and guiding. It's basically hand-holding and guiding, giving them the tools to put them in the best light in which they're comfortable with. Well, we're rounding out 40 minutes here. If anyone has any questions, you can feel free to pop it in the comment section there. But anything else you want to touch on?
No, I don't think so. I think this weekend is going to be bananas. So be aggressive, comfortable with it. But this month, and then I think over Memorial, I think people are really going to want to, I feel like they're going to want to check out and actually like go on a vacation. So
I think so too.
In the sense of, more listings, but there might be less buyer, pool. So maybe that's a better time to consider offering. So.
Yep, and that has been a strategy that's worked. I know for a couple of my buyers in the past too, is those holiday weekends, right? When your competition is playing, what's the cat's away, the mice will play type of things, right? So,
all those schools, never know.
Yeah, Good. All right. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your time in Palm Springs and get all your work done that you need to do down there. And you're coming back today or tomorrow?
Tonight, yeah. I'm coming
tonight,
back.
yeah.
And I hear it's like in Seattle or something.
What'd you say?
Heard it was like raining.
Actually, it's partially. It was raining a little. Not real rain, not Seattle rain, but it was sprinkling. Yeah. So.
Yes. All right. I'm fine.
As long as we keep it to like the partial rain and then we see some sun, and then we'll be okay. But I was looking back last year for this weekend, it was 80 degrees. I just saw it in one of my old stories that, remember, we had that really nice stretch of weather last year. I'm just waiting for that up here.
And well, we were outside, but yes, everybody, meeting people,
Yeah.
but most at home. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Good. All right, Rye. Always a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yep. We'll chat with you soon. Bye, guys. Thank you for joining.
Bye, guys.